running a little late behind schedule. Got Frank Sundram. And Frank, good morning. How are we doing today, sir?
Doing fine, doing fine.
You were talking yesterday about sent something to me on the email about originally NASCAR started by running moonshine, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of the
Yes.
things, and that's how they started. And, we're talking what, the 20s, 30s, 40s, somewhere in that area, and then it took off. And then you said something about yesterday about the guy that's in charge of NASCAR got arrested for a DUI or something. And I thought that was kind of ironic that NASCAR is making full circle, it seems like, because they seem to be not doing well these days. And you had some thoughts about that, did you not?
Well, first of all, whenever somebody has these kind of issues with addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs, it's a very, very sad day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tragedy for the family. It's a tragedy for him. It's a tragedy for his workplace, because all these things just spill over.
Mm-hmm.
But like you, I found the irony to be kind of interesting, because here's an industry that sprung out of essentially escaping paying taxes for the alcohol they generated, and now you have the grandson of the founder arrested for essentially controlled substances.
Now someone, we can talk about driving under the influence and things like that, and buying it's a pre-crime. I said some people say, well, it's a pre-crime. They haven't they haven't hurt anybody. There's no victim. There's no crime. And I see their point on saying that. But then again, when you get behind a 2,000-pound or 4,000-pound vehicle and you're moving at 55, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, that becomes your judgment's impaired. You could kill people, not even realize you've done it, just in a blink of an eye. So maybe there's a reason that we have laws like that, preemptive laws, to keep people from driving under the influence of. But one of the things that kind of caught my attention on speaking of this is the reason states are reluctantly allowing marijuana to be legalized is because they don't have any way of testing your impairment on marijuana. That is, until they get that under their belt, until they can figure out is one puff too many, two puffs too many, whatever it's going to be, that is one of the reasons that people are going to, I think that states are dragging their feet on not allowing a legalization of recreational marijuana. And I know that NPR has talked about this. I didn't know what y'all had thought about it as well. I just wanted to throw that out there and ask you.
Well, I have a lot of friends in Colorado who do imbibe, and
Mm-hmm.
it's legal there.
Yeah.
But it certainly is not legal in Nebraska or Utah or Missouri, all which border Colorado. And they take a very dim view towards any kind of possession.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian France, his issues are a little bit larger, and the reason I tied this personal problem with NASCAR is the fact that he has been kind of asleep at the switch at NASCAR,
Mm-hmm.
and NASCAR has been struggling now for several years under his leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question now, it goes back to his uncle, Bill France's brother, who is going to be running NASCAR.
Oh, okay.
In the interim, while he steps aside, maybe never to return.
That's true. He may never be to return. So now that's one of the reasons people are saying NASCAR's days are limited. But I'm hoping not. Even though I don't follow racing, I haven't followed racing for years and years and years. But the idea of getting young people interested in cars caught my attention, and that's going away. Young people are not interested in cars. And I think a lot of it has to do with what it costs to operate a car or to purchase a car or to maintain a car, to keep one up. And people always have this vision, I'm going to go buy a new car. But the first 5 years of a car, it depreciates over 66%, of a car, of the value of a car. So that's something I try to tell people, yes, your kid may want to get into auto repair. That's wonderful and everything, but let's not buy him a new car. Let's buy him a car that's 5 years old or older, that's lost most of its depreciation, and expect to put money into repair of it, because it's a lot cheaper to repair one than it is to go pay for depreciation on a new car. If you buy a car that costs $30,000 for 7 years, you're going to end up paying back probably $60,000 before it's all said and done, plus maintenance on the car. So purchasing a car, a brand new one, can put people into poverty, into debt, and maybe it's just a vicious cycle that the banks like to keep you in debt. But anyway, that may be another subject. But that's just something I'm throwing out there for you, Frank, to see if that makes sense to you.
Well, I was reading an interesting article the other day that talked about what happened, why English cars became so unreliable versus how the Japanese, their approach to automobiles. And that was that the English system was so vested in apprentices. And so that to work up to being a full mechanic or to become a production worker, you worked as an apprenticeship.
Right.
And so that way, whatever your teacher taught you is what you followed.
True.
Whereas in America and in Japan being far, far more dynamic industrially, they skipped that whole apprenticeship system and went straight to mass manufacturing. So the quality skyrocketed and the mistakes weren't duplicated because in manufacturing, there's such a ruthlessness to efficiency that anything that doesn't produce work and stays working is eliminated very, very quickly. Whereas England had the old traditional system where you worked for 6 years under the master mechanic as an apprenticeship. So a lot of those practices just sort of got enshrined in the industry.
And it didn't necessarily mean it was beneficial to the industry either. Apparently not.
No. I mean, England's automobile industry pretty much self-destructed with the unionization there and all the problems they had with it and the politicization of automobile manufacturing when the government started dictating winners and losers. And it just pretty much destroyed the industry.
Yeah, there's no cars made in England anymore, are there? I can't think of any. I know the Mini is made in it's a BMW. The Mini is the Mini Cooper. Is there any? Is there any other cars you can think
there
of?
are a few. There are a few, but very few. But mostly the specialty manufacturing, like Aston Martin and things like that. Lotus. The mass manufacturers, they're more assembly plants than actually something being developed by the British for the British. That's gone.
Well, that's not. Well, if you look at history, then you can say that unions and you can say that picking the winners and losers doesn't necessarily make an industry grow, if that's what you're saying. And I agree with you.
I think unions are a bit different. I think in the particular case of British unionization, which it created all kinds of problems. It's a great joke about a man on the floor in absolute pain, screaming, writhing, and somebody says, "What's the matter?" He says, "I got to go to the bathroom." And the guy says, "Why don't you go to the bathroom?" He says, "What? On my break? Never." That goes to show you how inefficiency, how a system like that brings in inefficiency and lack of production. But and that's so true. I do see that. I had someone the other day that was talking about in San Francisco that restaurants are upset that they won't. That shops are not allowing I shouldn't say not allowing. They're feeding their employees lunch for free. And so they don't ever leave to go buy lunch. And so the businesses in the neighborhood are complaining that it's unfair that businesses feed their employees. And I kind of poo-pooed that. And someone said, "Yeah, that's unfair." And I said, "Well, let's put it this way. At my shop, my wife feeds our employees every day. That way no one has to leave. And it increases productivity. And we don't have to worry about 2 martini lunches anymore. Those went away. Because that's a very common problem, people drinking during lunchtime. And then when they come back, they're kind of like the next 4 hours, they really don't know what they're doing. Or they're very lazy. So that's one of the things that I've seen in my industry is how small businesses are trying to improve and more efficiency to get more bang for our buck and take care of our employees. Because I think it's a pretty good deal. If you can take care of your employees, they can take care of you and you keep them around here. But now I'm going to go back on car ownership of a car. It was very interesting. I saw this yesterday. They were talking about how if people buy cars brand spanking new, the first 5-6 years, they depreciate by 66%. So if you got a $30,000 car you buy today, in 6 years it's worth less than $11,000-$12,000.
it depreciates that much. I just found that so hard to believe that cars depreciate, because cars are not an investment. And you and I both talked about that. Now, maybe your 77 motorhome is an investment, but
it's a dry hole.
It's a black hole. It sucks all your money out. But that's what cars do. Sometimes and that's one of the reasons I think that young people are not getting into cars, because one, it costs so much to buy a car. It's hard to work on. You got to have specialized equipment. And the thing is, if you own a car, now you've got to have insurance for it. You've got to do maintenance on it. You got to make car payments on it. And that's why a lot of youngsters are saying, why do I want to get strapped down to $300 a month car payments for 7 years when I can not even have a car? Just, bum rides or ride my bicycle or whatever I got to do, ride off my girlfriend. That's what I did for a few years. But I mean, I think that's one of the reasons young people are staying away from buying cars. And maybe that's just that's just something I'm seeing. Maybe they're getting smarter than I was. I don't know.
Well, I still don't know how, in the cities you can get away with that. Even in Panama City, I don't think you can get away with it because things are so spread out.
I agree.
But people, that's just the reality. But cars are expensive to own. They're expensive to maintain, and you and I, when we grew up, you could buy a brand new car for a couple of $2,000.
Not
and
anymore.
Today it's $40,000, which is because, in a real sense, salaries in the last 20 years have dropped. They haven't risen.
That's true. That is so correct. I mean, your purchasing power of your dollar at 2% inflation for a year, thanks to the Federal Reserve, over a 10-year period of time, that's more than 20% interest figured in. Your dollar is depreciated by at least more than 20% after 10 years. And, when we were kids back in the 70s, you could buy a Corvette. A 77 Corvette was going, I want to say $7,000 is what it went for in 77. So in that general area, and I think you could buy a Pinto in 75, 76 for like $2,200. Right now, I don't think there's the cheapest car on the market right now. I want to say brand new is around $18,000 by the time you pay taxes and all that on it, about $18,000. Still, and that's not a big car, but it gets very, very expensive to maintain them and to repair them. Just to be able to do a tune-up on it, or an oil change on a car, it takes more equipment than people realize, more time. Just to be able to get to the oil filter, and some of these cars take special equipment and special training just to get to the oil filter, much less trying to put the right oil in it, put the right amount of oil in it. Too much oil will cause them not to run. Too little oil would ruin them. There's just so many things that have changed over the last, 20, 30 years that we could get away with. Years ago when I was a kid, we'd pull into a service station, check the gas and fill it up with oil. That's how bad my car was. It smoked so bad, my 68 Impala. So I grew up in that era with cars, cheap cars that didn't run very, very well, and that's one of the reasons I got into this industry. But yeah, things are definitely changing, and maybe for the better. I don't know. What are you thinking? We got about a minute left, Frank. You have the floor.
I hope it's for the better. For some reason in the world, folks don't listen to you and I, who seem to spout common sense from time to time.
Wow.
And they do their own thing, but there's certainly, I think, very much a case of things are going in two different directions in a lot of ways in a lot of industries.
That's true.
And, in the last 10 years, wages have effectively stalled. They haven't risen since the recession.
Correct.
And yet the prices are going up, gas prices are going up, housing prices are going up, and in the middle you've got folks that are just absolutely squeezed.
That's a fact.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yes, it is. I think, did you just cut Frank off accidentally? I think he accidentally kept. Are you still there, Frank?
Yes.
Good. I thought she accidentally cut you off. But you're absolutely right. We got to go. We're up against a break right here. But it is going to be interesting. The next few years are going to be very, very interesting.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
All right, welcome back to our show. This is Wednesday morning show of Karen Schoen here. Karen, what did you want to call and talk about this morning? I know something's usually on your mind early on Wednesday morning.
Oh, there's so many things. Wow. What an incredible election night last night.
I did
not knowing two races in the end. When you wake up in the morning, it's like, oh my goodness, they're not even done yet.
Well, I don't even know. I know there's a big race happening in Ohio, but I haven't heard anything about it this morning. I just woke up and said, well, today's Wednesday. We're going to find out what happened on Tuesday, but I haven't found out yet. Now, which races are you talking about?
I was talking about the race in Ohio,
Okay.
which is not settled yet,
Okay.
and the race in Kansas, which is not settled yet either.
Oh.
In both cases, the Republicans are the case of Ohio, which was a special election, which was actually an election for the representative position.
Mm-hmm.
And as of this moment, but they won't know until the end of August, after they count all of the absentee ballots, who is the winner, although the Republican is ahead, I think, by 1,700 points. But the other race is in Kansas, and that was a Republican primary. One candidate backed by the president, one candidate not. And the candidate backed by President Trump is ahead, I think, by 1,100 or 1,200 votes, which just shows me the importance of every single vote. So don't believe that when you hear someone say your vote doesn't count.
Oh, I know from experience. I think we had a lady elected to the school board, or did not get elected to the school board because of one vote here in Bay County. One vote.
Yeah, the lack of voting is really what changes an election. So we have a lot of things to be looking forward to for November. But a favorite candidate is going to need a vote. And we've got to be conditioned to get out and vote. This is our right, and this is what creates and keeps a solid America when the people voice their opinions.
Now, up in Ohio, that's the Rust Belt state. That's part of the automotive industry. For years and years, Ohio has been, sending parts and things to Detroit and everything up there. But John Kasich is the governor up there. But a lot of that's going away. A lot of that automotive industry is leaving Ohio and leaving Illinois and leaving the northern Rust Belt states and moving south, like Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, because of the rules and regulations and taxes that these northern states have. And
yes.
I think this is going to be, I think there's going to be a giant sucking sound of people leaving these northern states or these high tax states come April, when they find out what they have to pay the state and the federal government. I think a lot of people are going to say, I'm out of here.
I agree with you, but the scary part is when the people move down south, they bring their ideas and ideals with them. So instead of coming here and saying, wow, this is really terrific and we can build our industry,
well, we
don't have to worry about this, that, or the other thing, and this is much more business friendly. By the way, we need to have socialism.
Well, hey, you know what? People in the South have been saying that since 1865. Trust me. When the carpetbaggers came down here and the scallywags with their, they came down here trying to sell us these new ideas and things like here. And yeah, we that's where we learned the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee. A Yankee is someone who comes down and visits. A damn Yankee is one who comes down and stays. But we still like those Yankees. If they come down here and assimilate and become part of we want them here. We want them to visit. We want them to be a part of our culture, but we don't want socialism. I don't want socialism. I know some people say, I like Social Security. I like my Medicaid. Don't touch my Social Security, but I hate socialism. I'm going, boy, oh boy.
Well, the interesting thing yesterday was that all of the Sanders, Ocasio, Cortez-backed candidates all lost big time. So the more moderate Democrats seem to have won over the socialist Democrats. So maybe that faction of the Democrat Party is going to go back a little bit in their box, and more moderate Democrats.
Ocasio is going to be in the general election running against a Republican, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Her district is in the Bronx,
mm-hmm.
and having come from New York, the Bronx is completely liberal. So she will have no problem getting elected, which is sad because what happened was the Republicans are giving up. So you can't win anything if you give up, can you?
You can lose if you give up. Yes, you can, but it sounds like I guess they've decided that Ocasio is going to win in the Bronx because she has so much support there. I've always thought of the Bronx like Fort Apache, as a separate state, a separate entity. It was always different in the Bronx than what happens in other parts of New York, it seems.
Yes, I could never. I mean, to me, every one of the boroughs was so incredibly different. Merging them together in one city was always amazing.
It really is. It's completely, because you got, how many different boroughs? You got Queens, you got the Bronx.
There's 5 boroughs, and then there's Long Island, and it's not Long Island, it's Long Island with an I.
Okay.
Depends on where you live.
But
the city is contained of 5 boroughs, and each one of those boroughs is a city unto itself.
It really is. I think years ago, back when immigrants first came over in the 1800s in this area, they were established by different nationalities that lived in the different boroughs. You had the Italian, you had the German, you had the French. Am I right, or I don't know?
You're absolutely right. And the exciting part of growing up and living in New York was being able to go to each of those neighborhoods, and the food was just incredible. Because of the immigration, as they came over, they brought with them their culinary treats.
Oh, yes.
And being able to do that was the one thing that I did love about New York that I do miss, is that at any time of day or night, you can go anywhere and have anything that you want to eat.
Well, that's true. You can do the same thing at Pier Park, it seems like nowadays. But you are right about New York. It's, especially the city. It never seems to sleep. There's always something to go on, and you can gain 100 pounds in 2 weeks if you go up there to visit by eating everything. But now, on what I am seeing though is the direction of the. I'm talking about, this is the car show. But how is this going to affect if the liberal politics of the Northeast? How do you think that's going to affect the automotive manufacturing that is still up in the North? I mean, we still have the automotive manufacturing in Detroit and Canada and things like that. But this socialism...
Well, there's a big plant coming down to Alabama.
That's
and Governor Kay Ivey has done an amazing job. She should be reelected. She has really cleaned up that state and has enticed and brought down many businesses. So I think you're absolutely right. There is going to be a major shift, which is going to be terrific for the people that are here, because the opportunity for industry, bringing an automotive plant is just not the plant. You have all of those additional businesses and industries that come out of just the one automotive industry.
That's like for Mercedes plant that's in Carolina, or the the Kia plant that's in Mississippi or Alabama. These plants right here, they come in and they hire 20, 30,000 people, but it's the people that are supporting that, the other businesses, the upholstery shops, the all these. The tire industry, all these things are coming down here, and they're bringing these products to put these cars together. And I would love to see Northwest Florida get something like this. And I'd love to have our industry which is more than military and tourism. Right now, that is our biggest. We need one more leg of our stool, so to speak, where we'll have a little bit more support. Because if we lose either military or tourism, we're sunk economically in this part.
No, I agree with you. We really need to. There's a survey, and it's given if you type in on your search engine, and stop using Google, but if you type in on your search engine that you are what you are looking for, you would be able to find the different industries that are connected and what they need for people. Well, we've got to be able to promote that in our area. You're absolutely right. We've got to be able to promote what we are all about, because the misnomer is, people have no idea, they have no clue, and it's really important because we are so diverse, and they're improving the roads, they're improving the distribution so that the ability to distribute from Panama City all over the world is going to be.
It is.
So that,
You're breaking up, Karen.
breaking up.
There you go. You're breaking up there, but yeah, you're right about the industry, because we've got from Merida, Mexico. It's a sister city of Panama City. They're going to be moving up a air conditioning products plant here in the old Boyd Brothers building, where they manufacture air conditioning units for cars. That's what they're going to be doing. So I do see the potential of this area, because really we have a lot of people that I think could qualify to work in plants like that. And that seems to be the biggest drawback, is what people keep telling me is, are the schools willing to train people to work in these industries? And
well, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of you don't have to train people if they can read, write, and do math. That's the whole key. You can train people, and if they can't read, write, and do math, what are you training?
Good point there.
The roots of our educational system that has to be fixed, because when you get out of high school, if you can't read, write, and do math, then how do you get trained to work in a job? Because you still have to read, write, and do math.
Well, yeah, we had someone come in the other day that sent a resume to us. On his cover page, he misspelled his name. And I went, this is not good. I'm going, this is not good, but you can't read, write, you couldn't type either. But it does make me kind of wonder sometimes, if we're going in the right direction. But I think we are. I really do. I
feel we're going in the right direction for industry, and now we've got to get the education to catch up.
Oh, I think I was reading
the scary part is the censorship that's happening right now, and that I'd like to talk about next week, if that's okay with you.
Yes, when you start censoring somebody, that allows me to give credibility to them. I may think these people are just crazy, and I may not listen to them or everything, but I think they have the right to say what they have to say. And if and sometimes they really come out with some ideas that the other people don't want you to know about. Maybe that's the reason they're doing the censorship. And I'm talking about Alex Jones is what I'm talking about. And a lot of
see, what people don't realize is we have a First Amendment, but the First Amendment does not really affect the private industry. Private industries are autonomous. The First Amendment means you can go and talk about anything in a government position, on a government property, on a you can gather on government land. But what it doesn't say is that if you're a private industry, you should be following the same thing.
Right.
And we're not.
We're not. Anyway, on that note, I've got to go.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.